Hello everybody, this is the Starving Martian, host of Martian Peace Theater, and today we're going to be taking a look at Mars Attacks Classics Volume 1. Mars Attacks Classics Volume 1 is put out by IDW Publishing, but collects the 5-issue miniseries that kicked off the Topps Comics Mars Attacks miniseries. Now, as I've mentioned in a previous episode, Topps was not actually the first company to publish Mars Attacks comic books. Back in the late 80s, we had Mars Attacks from Pocket Comics that was going to go through the entire card series, but they only got 4 issues in before being canceled. Check out my look at that if you like. But by 1994, Topps was producing their own comics. And since they had the rights to Mars Attacks cards, being their card series and all, they decided to make their own comic book. And they tested the waters with a 5-issue miniseries to see if it would sell. And so this volume here collects issues 1 through 5 of that miniseries, along with all 5 backup stories. Each comic, and here's issue number 1. This is, by the way, a special collector's edition. You could tell because it has a shiny gold foil up there. That's how you know it's the 90s. Your comic has gold foil stamped on it. So each comic had the main story represented by one cover, and then you would flip it over for the backup story. And I love the covers for the backup stories, and I'm glad that they are reprinted in this volume here. Not every trade edition reprints covers, and I'm glad that IDW did put the covers here, because some of the covers have really nice artwork. Speaking of covers, you'll notice this cover here. The Martians in the book look nothing like this. This is new artwork. This is because they want you to see this on the store shelves and recognize the Martians. Now, the Martians inside the book have been redesigned. They've been updated. They've been given a new 90s look. And personally, I'm not a big fan. I like the classic look of the Martians. One of the reasons why I love the movie is because they got... it looks just like the cards came to life. But this was the 90s. Everything was darker. Everything was edgier. And Mars Attacks had to follow suit. And so the new Martian design... There we go. Alright. So, there's still a bit of a skeletal look to the face, although it now has piranha teeth for some reason. The head is no longer a brain, just a big swollen melon. Usually all splotchy like it's shown here. This, by the way, is Komodoth. He is the leader of the Nards. Yes, you heard me right. The Martians now have 2 factions. The Payaks, these fellows over here, and the Nards, the more traditional Martian. So, as Monster Squad would be happy to tell us, Martians got Nards. So, I'm not a huge fan of the new designs. It just doesn't work for me. Payak design, by the way, was taken from a unused concept for the original trading card series. So that is kind of cool. But, be that as it may, the story pretty much follows, as you would expect, Mars attacking the Earth. They come, they invade, they set loose their giant insects. They quickly lose control of their giant insects, however, because their science division messes up. Their controllers don't control what they ought to be controlling. And so things don't go well for either side. In fact, by the end of the story, minor spoilers, Mars has succeeded in only really taking over half of the Earth. There's an uneasy truce that will be further explored in Volume 2. One page that always amuses me is Komodoth here. I always kind of want to call Darth Vader, lounging around complaining about the way things are going in the invasion, and he seems to be dressed like Aquaman for some unknown reason. And then the backup stories take place in the 60s for the most part and show things that happened decades before. I love this cover here for issue number 2. Obviously, destroying a dog. Card number 36, called out by name. And this claims to offer the full story of that. It really doesn't. The details don't match up, but be that as it may. The backup stories are pretty fun. I do enjoy the backup stories in these. And that's why I would recommend this over this. This is Mars Attacks, the graphic album, collects the same 5 issues. This was printed back in the 90s by Topps themselves. Obviously with a different cover, but it lacks the 5 backup stories that are collected in Classics Volume 1. Now it does have a 4-page epilogue that Classics 1 is missing for some reason. And it also has its own unique backup story, God Save the Queen, which is only available here. And honestly, the best reason to buy this particular comic is for this cover. I do love this image. Alright, so that is Mars Attacks Classics, volume number 1. The Mars Attacks comic series from Topps, you know, it has its high points, it has its low points. It's not my favorite interpretation of the Martians. I have to say that I would recommend these books for Mars Attacks enthusiasts or completionists. The more casual fan or somebody with a, you know, just a interest in the comics would be better off picking up the later IDWs. My own personal opinion, but that's what I'm here for. So this has been the Starving Martian, guys. I will be back later showing off volume number 2. Until then, have a good one and watch the skies.